I
Okay.
know why, but tell our audience why.
Okay. Hello. Well, my name is Dawn Spears, as Tailin said. I am Narragansett and Choctaw from my mom's side. My mother was Dios geez, back in '92. And but it's funny when you lose someone that important in your life and you see all the work they were doing that they didn't complete, it makes you almost want to make sure that you spend your time wisely, I guess, while you're
Mm.
here. So as a result, I feel like I've tried to kind of emulate her and do and be and is I guess as helpful and across as many arenas as I can, and really representing us as artists, but also helping artists. So what you'll see here today is actually my setup from a digital market that happened this past Saturday, which was the Abbey Museum Indian Market, a market that I helped produce initially
Yes.
and launch off the ground, which is very
Right.
exciting because it's in Bar Harbor, Maine, and a little isolated, but I think it's proven itself to be a, a worthy space and definitely a good space for market and for
Well,
artists.
can we back up for a second? Because
Mhm.
um, you have been producing cultural programs for a very long time and you're highly experienced and skilled in that. So the Abbey Museum did approach you
Mhm.
um, bef- years before they actually had the inaugural event 2 years ago.
Yes,
Um,
2018.
so you were instrumental in bringing it to life and bringing artists in to the fold. And um, I think it's interesting, and we'll get to this. There's just so much to cover that I want to be methodical about it because you do so much. And so with Northeast Indigenous Arts Alliance that you created, and you'll talk about that a bit more later, um,
Mhm.
and just your place in the community and that and the connections that you have and that people trust you, artists trust you, and you're established personally but also professionally. I think that really helped to bridge the Abbey Museum to the artists, and your being present in that space is definitely what made, like, the first year was I was there, was beautiful, and it had this electric energy and this feeling of community and family, and that doesn't happen. That's just not an easy thing that just happens. That's something that comes with uh someone like I mean, obviously there was a team in place also, and there are incredible people working on that. But something what you bring to these types of events is something unique and special, and like a level of trust with communities. So I wanted to mention that, but I also want you to talk about Naya and how have connected with artists all these years.
Oh, well, I mean, it goes back almost 30 years. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Um, I worked for the Mashantucket, tribe
Hmm.
back in the '90s, and at that point, we were organizing the largest powwow in the country with
Right.
Skamitzen.
Right.
And it's funny, you do all of that admin work and all that, when you're the one of the admins, you're doing a lot of coordination behind the scenes,
Hmm.
and so you gain a lot of experience. And so I worked very closely with the director and organizer of that event, and as a result, I kind of learned all the ins and outs and got a huge, uh, extensive list of artists across the country. So then we also had dance troupes, and so I've had the opportunity to work with some of the top known entertainers, from Charlie Hill and
Hmm.
I just say that because there's a lot of them have passed,
Right.
and you know people that you get to meet them. I mean, just as you have yourself, you get to meet them and get to know them, and then and become very close with them over the years. But as a result, anyway, I took that experience and moved on to New England Foundation for the Arts, where I ran a grant program for Native arts, and that was a regional grant program as well as a national. And so again, um, it just kept growing, my network of contacts. And then what does happen, yes, is that you learn to work and work with artists, but also to care about, what they
Hmm.
want, what they need. And
What they need. Yeah.
I mean, the best way to build that relationship and gain that trust with an artist is to be that advocate for them.
Hmm.
So, being the person that contacts them, you become the person that they say what they need, and then it's your it's your place to make sure and make sure it happens, right? Um,
Right. You're like the bridge between the museum or organization and the artist, and they feel connected to you or comfortable or trust you in a way that
mhm.
they may or may not trust an organization. So it's really important.
Yes. So I mean, I've learned to work with some difficult personalities, but I can
Hmm.
say overall, for the most part, especially in Indian country, I think
Yeah.
most people are down to earth and cool,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I feel like I've got some amazing friends over the years as a result, and I mean that's kind of an honor and a privilege, right? I mean, um I will say one time I did get starstruck because I'm not a starstruck kind of person, but, one
Yeah.
time I met Rita Coolidge, and my mom loved Rita Coolidge, and, it was just the idea that, this is somebody I grew up listening to and that my mother really
And
loved,
that
and
connection.
so,
Right.
yeah, so that was probably my only time I was really starstruck, but I hung out
Hmm.
with her niece and had a great time. But it's
Hmm.
funny, yeah, I really never thought about it, but so those experiences anyway helped kind of teach me best practices,
Hmm.
and and so I've just kind of kept that over, and maintained that. And working with New England Foundation for the Arts, I had to go out into the communities and actually really sometimes sell people on the idea of even applying for
Right.
a grant. You know,
Right.
it seemed overwhelming, intimidating, but there's a lot of perks to it because it would help them. You know, in some cases, some people didn't have a resume, so I became that person that would help
Right.
them develop those needed tools, really, to further them and advance them in their own, you know,
Well, yeah. I mean, so
careers.
you and I helped to produce a large art show at the Pequot Museum in
Yes.
2016. And that was the first time I was really exposed to how deep you get in there with work, because it's not just, sending out an application or saying you should apply to this. I mean, you were physically driving to people's houses and saying, this might be a good opportunity for you. Let me help you fill out the application. Let me
Mhm.
find money for you to pay for the application. I mean, I have never seen anybody get that deep in with artists and support them to that level. And I was just so like heartened by it. And and it was a really good learning experience too, because I like to think as a producer of shows that I do get in there, but you are on the ground, and that was really incredible to see. And um, I think that I hope you know that that's really something special that you offer, and you should be really proud of that.
Thank you. I think that we always have to remember that when we're in somewhat isolated, and I mean, we're in New
Hmm.
England, it's not as isolated as other
Right.
parts of the country, but in some ways it still is because I mean, regardless, Indian country is Indian country. Your geography may change, your landscape may change, but some of
Right.
those
Right.
basic concepts of, how we live, we still keep ourselves separate. We still kind
Right.
of go out into the world very carefully, because I always say that, you have to put on a different hat when you're out,
Hmm.
you know, and then sometimes I don't think people fully understand that we are walking into worlds, that our home
Hmm.
life is different from your home life, and
Right.
so I think, it was really that goal of getting people to be comfortable, yes, get them to trust you and get them to realize that what you're offering is something that can help them maybe grow a little bit more. So provide them the tools they need to to, um, to do more. for themselves, and be more self-sufficient. Art is a way, and has proven to be a way to help a lot of our I don't know, community members maybe get out of difficult situations, and provides, an economic, opportunity for them. And I mean, and if it hasn't, it can definitely. I know we have one story that we used to share at NIFA about, a very well-known artist who found weaving and has become, award-winning. But at one point in their lives, it was about substance abuse. So they used it as a way to get out of that, that challenge in their life. And I think that if we can show this to more of even our youth, show them that there's opportunity, I think this is. And so I guess that leads me back to so when I left NIFA, I went, well, NIFA they stopped supporting Native art. So at that point, and so I said, well, I have a lot of trust that's been put into me in this, in these 6 states here. I can't just dissolve this program and walk away. I've got to still have something that's set in place so that they know that there's still a resource available, that I'm still available. And so that's where the Northeast Indigenous Arts Alliance was formed. We chose our words, our title, our name very carefully too, because we didn't want it to be about, Native, there's confusion around Native and what that means, because a lot of people here in this area will think that they're Native just because they've, their family's been here for
Right.
one of the first settlers off the boat. So they're
Right.
Native.
So they're Native,
And,
New
right.
Englanders.
So that's why we went with Indigenous, because, we're tied to this land. This land is part of us. And so, and then we broadened it and didn't make it solely about New England, and we said Northeast. I wanted to be able to connect with, our family, our cousins, in New York, and I even wanted to go even beyond that, because we don't have borders traditionally.
Right.
So we could go all the way up into Canada. I think that those are things that needed to be remembered and may have been forgotten over the years. We get so caught up in our world, we forget the basics, sometimes. So anyway, so we formed Northeast Indigenous Arts Alliance, and it was originally constructed by bringing in organizations from each of the states to help build, what our core structure was going to be. And it's here. It's still very quiet, and it's still an opportunity to grow. But right now I feel like my goal is to make this, especially in our current situation and this pandemic, and I don't know how long this is going to last, but it's made me think, okay, so how can we use this? Because I've really left it as more of a space that has a website, is on social media, but it's still, I mean, I still get people contacting me all the time and asking, for technical assistance or support. And I still, work and represent us in a positive way to artists. So we provide workshops, we do a lot of things around marketing, because I think that's important. And NIA has maintained its relationship with New England Foundation for the Arts, and has partnered with them since I personally left. So I have to say that's not a normal relationship when you leave your job, But
yes,
it just goes to show that even NIFA knew that, there's a value in supporting this
exactly.
the Native artist community. So
can you give the website?
It's NIFA.org, NEFA.org.
NIA's website.
Oh, NIA's website. Oh goodness, you're gonna ask me to remember that. It's I believe it's NE Indigenous
Arts.org.
Yeah.
If you look it up, if you do Google search Northeast Indigenous Arts Alliance, it comes up first.
It does come up, yes.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about all the beautiful things that you have behind there, because you, in addition to all these fantastic organizational things that you create gorgeous art. This is Rise and Thrive, Indigenous Art, Culture, and Joyful Acts of Resistance. I'm here with Dawn Spears. We're on Usula Media, and we'll be right back.
Take me out one more time is all you said to me. And I swore I heard a smile in your voice. I heard a smile over the phone is how you told me.
I came out in the 11th grade. Nobody was embracing you. The kids were cruel. It was very difficult to be gay. Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. And even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. I have a mentor, Maria, and she convinced me to continue my education. She just never judges. She's a true role model. From the depths of my heart, I thank you, Maria, for being a friend and a beautiful person. No one receives a diploma alone, and I'm honored to share this moment with you. Thank you. If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
And we're back with Dawn Spears. This is Rise and Thrive on Usula Media. Dawn, we just talked about Naya and a lot of the work that you did with NIFA. But what I think is interesting is that you're an artist yourself. So you really do have an understanding of both sides, like being on the artist side, what the needs are when you go to shows and what you think, what works and doesn't work. And so that you can bring that experience into your own production of cultural events. I'd really love to jump in and talk about your artwork and when you started. I mean, I think you've probably made art your whole life. When you really started to develop your look, because you definitely have a very strong vision and statement to your work. And there's some people listening and some people watching. So when we do talk about the items that are behind you, we have to be really clear on what you're showing us.
Okay.
So will you share how you started? I'm really excited about the refurb. How do you put it? Upcycle.
Oh, like repurpose.
Repurpose.
I've been saying redesigned.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So when you take a designer bag or designer jeans and you know that they already are what they are, but then I decide to add my touch to it, we'll say. So you're right about always being, doing something. I can remember being like the size of my granddaughter in drawing and trying to, just sketch out a room. But
wow.
But I think my first love was weaving, which ironically, I don't do any of anymore. And I've been saying I'm going to do some more. And then it was watercolors. And I remember, must have been about 25 years ago now. I remember I was happening to be on an arts and crafts board call. I was tasked with being on that call. And I remember telling them that my biggest problem and challenge at the time was, did I have to do work that was Native, like if it was Native American art, did it have to depict Native American life, or like why I liked painting florals at the time. And so I it was weird, but it just didn't seem comfortable for you to be a
were they
Native
asking
artist.
you to be on the board? They were asking you, was that a question that you thought about yourself because you were on this board and it seemed like that's what they were asking for of artists?
I think it made me bring it up while I had the opportunity, because I think I maybe only been on that, designated to be that.
So how do they define Native art? I mean, this has been a long standing question, right?
Yeah.
Right. So when was this? How long ago was this? Because it's shifted.
In 2000. I remember
Okay.
it was in 2000. I was working for Mashantucket, and I was working for the secretary for council. So I got tasked a lot of things that were arts,
Mm-hmm.
and education related. And so so I was on this call, and I just remember asking, just because I'm doing it, it should be considered
Mm-hmm.
native art. I'm
Right.
an enrolled member in a federally recognized
Right.
tribe. Whatever I create
It's
should
native
be
art.
classified right. And I just said
Absolutely.
that I really felt a lot that I didn't share what I was doing because it didn't fit
Hmm.
in our world. And then I made corn husk dolls. Been making corn husks
Yes, they're
since
beautiful.
I was in my 20s, and that was because my mother said, you know, just focus on one thing. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, my sister's Tuscarora, I was, lived in upstate New York for many years. I became part of that community. I was adopted, in Seneca. I went to Longhouse. I was like, it was all part of my world, and
Mm-hmm.
so cornhusk dolls were part of my upbringing, and so it made sense. I liked the idea. And I mean, what girl doesn't want to keep playing with dolls anyway,
Mm-hmm.
So I made dolls, and over the years they became more and more, decorated. But I originally started out just doing the traditional, calico clothing and
Mm-hmm.
beading the skirt. So it was the basic Iroquois style of
Right.
dress. And then in the last few years, I started realizing that I didn't have to stick to that, and that the dolls could even morph into more of
Yes.
representing who I am now as an
Right.
artist. And
Right.
so they've transitioned along with my
Uh-huh.
artwork, which now my artwork has gone through a few, I'll say, transitions with really looking at symbols and designs that reflect New England, reflect the Northeast. And then I took those, and then I kind of turned it into my own thing. I originally looked at things from nature, flowers, tracks. I just love all the lines that are in the world. And so then I stopped trying to, put that into my art, and I just started letting myself do what I want to do. And that's where the abstract came in. And so there's a lot of contrast of black and white,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's also a lot of bright colors.
So much
And
color.
and I was doing paintings for a few years that I would take the colors from my sunsets and sunrises that I photographed, and I was taking that and doing an acrylic painting in the background of those colors. So you would see the progression of, through of these bright, fiery,
Uh-huh.
reds and yellows and oranges. And then I would do all of these freehand, drawings on the top of that. And what would happen is you could actually take the painting and you could turn it around all different angles.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
whichever angle
That's what
you
I
looked at
love.
it, you'd have a new painting.
Right.
It was up to you what side it was. I had knew what side I felt was,
Right.
but it was up to the beholder what they could
Mm-hmm.
see in it. And I remember showing somebody, I was in Hopi for a board meeting when I was on the board for Native Americans and Philanthropy. And I just ran into an artist there, and they saw some of my work, and they were like, oh, this looks like the mountains. And like they could
Mm.
look at what I was doing, and they had their own interpretation
Yeah.
of what that represented. And I sometimes felt like, well, it can be what's in me trying to get out, because I don't
Mm.
plan anything. It just comes, and I know what it's done. I'll look at it and I'll say it's done. And
Wow.
I think I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the one that I did for our lost sisters, and I'm looking at all these lines, and I'm looking at, it it just comes from me. I don't plan it. So I don't know how to really explain that. And I know
Can we
that
see that one for anybody who's watching on YouTube? Can you
yes,
pull it down?
I think I know that's not the proper way to do art, to create art.
What do
That's
you
not the
mean?
way that we're taught. Let me see. Can you
Oh,
see
I
it?
see.
And is it in the screen?
Yeah. Yep. We
Okay.
can see it.
So I mean, there's a lot of black in there, not so much white in this one. I didn't want it. I really wanted, so then there's all these handprints, and I mean, and I just wanted it to just keep going and keep going, you know. But there's a lot, I don't know, there's a lot happening there, you know.
Yeah. Yes, there's a lot of emotion in that piece.
Yeah. And so when I have something that I'm doing specifically for a purpose, like when my son and my daughter-in-law got married, I did a painting for them, and their color themes were purple for wampum, for, you know, for Rhode Island and for our area, but turquoise for my daughter-in-law, who's Navajo. And so what I did is I merged those two colors, and then I even took, and there was a point where the symbols on the side went from curved to more triangular, you know. So I was connecting the two. And then there's corn, you know, there's things that no matter what community you are, that are kind of a constant. So that painting, again, I didn't plan it. It just worked itself. It grew from what I was doing, and I knew what the purpose was. So I don't know, I guess that's just how I do my work. So I was sharing, I was doing these kind of doodles and drawings, and it just kind of calmed me, and it made me happy. And then those same things ended up in my paintings. And then I said, well, how do I take it from my paintings and make it into something that you can wear? And so I'm showing right now a pair of, this is a custom order that I've done, and it's a pair of Chucks, men's pair, and they're being done for a band member, somebody who's
gorgeous.
And I don't know,
wow.
Somebody is, and I was told, go ahead, do your thing. So, you know, this is somebody that was confident enough to handle the color and not have a problem, you know.
I mean, the color is so vibrant, and there's so much movement. It's just, they're really cool.
There was no limitations here. I could just do what I want and really put those bold colors in. And it's, you know, sometimes guys don't want all of this color. They want, like the pair I made for my husband were all browns and grays because he didn't want to be so bright. But I think what you'll still see in that is that what I call my aesthetic is, you know, that design element, you know, that I'm mixing some kind of stippling design in there in very geometric shapes with the colors, you know. I did.
And so you're all, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I did a pair for a very good friend that are all in pinks, and I love that, you know. And I had I did a pair that were Hello Kitty, you know, and I made a tribal Hello Kitty. So yeah, I think sometimes I like being given the you know, the color palette, because then it makes me experiment in that area.
Right. So when did you move into you do jackets, and you did this fabulous collaboration dress that We Are the Seeds. When did you start moving? And then your handbags are really well known also.
Yeah. So, you know, it's been very slow progression with really experimenting with what will work, you know, because I'm doing it all by hand. It is all freehand. I'm using textile paint. So, you know, I did Timberlands just recently, and Timberlands are really difficult to do. I mean, you're making an investment in buying the shoe.
Yes, right.
And then when you're actually trying to paint on it, it bleeds really fast.
Oh no.
So that's kind of what you deal with.
So do you give up on that, or do you keep trying and just you experiment and find a way to make it work?
I just keep experimenting until I master it, really. So I've done 2 pairs of Timberlands. I have another pair I'm working on right now. It's a little slower process because of that. And I did a trade for the last pair. I got a nice copper bracelet set from JJ Oterra for the last pair. So JJ will sport those boots now.
Nice.
But I like that, because then I know where, you know, where they are.
Right.
But, yeah. So you were asking about, well, let me see, what could we, oh, so the handbags, then I
Mhm.
went to the gown, which I remember mentioning to you that I wanted to do a dress.
Mhm.
I don't sew. So I look for things that, I'm always looking for something that's already made that I can um, color. Now I'm also concerned with, copyright issues. Are you allowed to do that too? You know what I mean? So it's always like a fine line.
Right.
But I feel like if somebody has, maybe they bought it and then they didn't like it, it didn't fit properly or whatever, and then they passed it on. So does it now just end there? I'm looking at, well, it's coming to my hands and I'm giving it a new life and a new
Yes.
presence,
Right.
So
Yeah.
so the dress behind me is, I don't know if you can see it.
I can see it.
That's a Banana Republic dress. It's very cute.
Okay.
It was listed as being a canvas, and so I bought that brand new.
Mhm.
Just to experiment with it, and
Mhm.
I just like the little, peplum and
Yes, it's
that
really
fit and flare
pretty.
style.
And it's like a
And then
very simple background so that it was a blank canvas for you.
exactly. So that was an example of where I could do that. But when you actually gave me an opportunity to do what I wanted to do, and probably helped get me on that road, because having that project at Seeds,
Well, let's
um,
say it was Lauren Aragon and
yes,
Akinav's vision to do
yes.
that. Mhm.
Yeah, so it was something I had wanted to do, but I didn't have the opportunity to really try it. And that was actually a canvas gown. And
Right.
so I
So
got to,
let me just interrupt right there real quick
okay.
and just say what it was for We
Hmm.
Are the Seeds, the first We Are the Seeds, we did a fashion event where Lauren Aragon from Akanav created, I believe it was like 4 dre- canvas dresses,
Hmm.
and gave them to artists during the show. So during the first day of the show, and artists painted on them or embellished them and just did what they do, made them beautiful. And then there were a few other artists involved that created canvas outfits that were embellished as well. And so this is what Dawn is talking about. And Dawn, it was a beautiful gown, and it was just a blank canvas, literally. And Dawn embellished the bottom, and J. Nicole Hatfield painted on the top. So go for it. I just wanted to give some background there.
Yeah, so that was my first time, I don't know, drawing on a dress, drawing on, something on a mannequin. And I'm talk about being intimidating, because, um, this was also probably one of my first national markets as well. So I'm just kind of getting my feet more, wet. And then I get
And then
this,
we're like, here's a ball gown, do something
yeah,
in
I
four
was like,
hours.
I, w- I was on such a high, because that
And
was
it's
like,
like
what
80 degrees out.
yeah. So, I went right to, right to work at it on it. And, I mean, if they had given me the opportunity to bring it back with me that evening, I would have probably stayed up all night working on it. That's how much I loved the idea. But because what the process that I'm doing is, it's building color, it takes a lot of time. I didn't get to do a
Mhm.
lot of it.
Right, right.
And so it wasn't until almost 2 years later that I finished it, right?
Hmm.
And then it got to walk in the fashion show at Heard Market
Yes.
in 2019, and then it was in a show as well at the Abbey Museum in New
Right.
Market in 2019. So
And
I
it's a
think,
showstopper for sure. Every time someone sees it in person or in photos, people are just dying over it. It's so gorgeous.
yeah, it gave me an opportunity to finish the whole bottom, because
Hmm.
when it walked at Seeds, it initially was just a portion of it was
Sure.
completed, because
Right.
we needed to let other
Yeah.
artists,
I mean, it
um,
was a lot to ask of everybody, but it was an
yeah,
incredible show. I mean,
yes,
it just was such a great
it
idea, an
was.
incredible show.
It was
Yeah.
absolutely a cool idea. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so that kind of is what got me started, that let me just keep experimenting. So I've done a lot of painting on denim, and that was my first time going outside denim, and now I just try all different types of material, even looking at canvas shoes. And
Those are
so
so cute. Okay.
so
If you don't see these are like These are, how do you
Like,
call them? They look like espadrilles a bit with a little
right, it's a
heel, platform
wedge.
heel,
Yeah, it's a
and they're
red
red and
wedge,
pink.
but it's also kind of like a
A
sneaker. So
sneaker. They
yeah,
okay, they have everything. Those
it's
are adorable.
right. It's a sneaker wedge with
Oh, wow.
red canvas trim, and then I just painted it up,
So much
and
fun.
so I have these, and then I also look for loafers that again have that canvas, and then I'll
So they're
paint
kind of
them.
like Tom's
Yeah,
shoes in that
yeah.
way. So
I've
that
done some Toms, right? So I mean, sometimes it kind of limits you when you're dealing with canvas,
mm,
what you're going to find for a shoe. But then I started thinking about it too. I mean, you could even get the shoes that you dye for a wedding. I bet you I could paint
mm.
those.
Oh my
I haven't
goodness.
tried that,
That is an idea if
but I
anybody's
probably
getting
could paint
married.
those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a great idea.
So what I actually ask people is for them to purchase their shoes, try them
Hmm.
on,
Hmm.
make sure they're comfortable. I don't want to do all of this work and then you don't actually get to wear them. So I tell them,
Right.
buy them and make sure they're comfortable, and then send them to me. And
Right.
I can usually turn around in like 2 weeks, to get them done, get them back to them. So it's provided there's nothing drastic happening in my life,
Right. Well,
that's what I can
it's just
do.
we're all so busy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a break. This is Rise and Thrive on Usula Media. When we come back, we'll have more with Dawn Spears.
Can I look at you without a care in the world? And that sad look that you bear when you think there's no one there. And it's alright.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
Take me out one more time is all you said to me. And I swore I heard a smile in your voice. I heard a smile. Over the phone is how you told me you still love me, and I'm still kicking myself. But what I said to you, I told you I'll be over soon. I'll be over soon. Can I look at
And we're back with Rise and Thrive. This is Tailin. I'm here with Dawn Spears, and we were just chatting during break about this pandemic that we're in and how we've adjusted. And Dawn was about to show me some corn husk dolls that she's made that are very relevant to the times.
Yes, we were just mentioning, should we talk about pandemic? And I said, well, I did say I was going to go back to the dolls, and
Mhm.
so for Mother's Day, Mother's Day is usually a big thing. I don't know, for all us mothers, right? We get to go out usually for breakfast, and our family comes around and takes us, and we do things, right? Well, I
Yeah.
knew that this year that wasn't going to happen.
Mhm.
So I said, well, let me create something that's bright, colorful, I guess just it will bring you happiness when you look at it. But I also wanted to use it as something to also represent this moment that we're in. So I made a whole bunch of dolls, and
Mhm.
I made them in different colors, which is kind of going a little bit against what I like to do, but every once in a while I feel like, all right, let's just do this. And so I made these dolls in very bright colors again. My hands were all dyed up
They
because
were gorgeous. Dawn
So-
posted them on her Facebook page, which is Dawn Spears. You have a Facebook. How does
Right.
it? Is
It's
it
just
just Dawn Spears?
Dawn Spears.
Okay, so
yes.
if you're not seeing them now, you should take a look because they were, and she lined them up, and you had a name for the project, how you lined them up, and
They were socially distanced dolls.
they so beautiful. It was just beautiful every day when you were posting. It just lifted me to see them.
And what was interesting about photographing them is that they especially if you got really down in the grass, you put them out in the lawn or put them, I brought them by water because I think everything goes back to water and where we come from and our just our connection to water and water's life. But I brought them over to a local water spot and I lined them all up.
Yeah.
And and it was almost like you could tell that they were connecting.
They were connecting with each other.
Yes, and connecting back to the land almost, right? So
hang on one sec. We're having a little bit of a technical issue. Excuse us, everybody, while we're in our home studio. Okay. Okay, we're back. So you're saying they seem very connected.
And it was almost as you were photographing them that you could see a little bit of, I don't know, I want to say attitude or personality
They
resonate
absolutely
through.
seemed like,
You know,
they seemed alive.
like they knew. And
Really
I always
did.
say that I have a
Yes.
connection with my dolls, you know, and you know, it even when I package them up to send them out, I package and I make like a bed in the box and I never cover their face, you know, and I tell them I'm sorry, I have to put you in here, but you're going to your new home, you know, like they literally are, they come from me, they're part of me, even though, you know, I don't know, it's so part of me is
it's
in
so
them.
incredible you say that because that's how I felt that. I felt that
Yeah.
through the images.
So then on Mother's Day, I had bought myself a sewing machine. And on Mother's Day, I played with the sewing machine and I actually sewed instead of hand sewing. I usually hand sew everything. And I actually
There you go.
got to
That's
sew
awesome.
my first doll and I sew her clothing, I mean. And but this doll is she's wearing a wool skirt and she has, you know, her moccasins on and then a denim jacket. I was originally going to make her with a t-shirt that said, you know, warrior woman or indigenous or something, you know, like I was going to have a little
phenomenally
t-shirt.
indigenous.
Yeah, but I opted just to make this little denim jacket. And then of course she has a cool hat with a
and her hat band is very
that
much your style.
that I designed. And then I made her a mask and the mask is in a calico print. So it's like everything still has meaning.
Right.
And then I have her holding one flower, a single flower. And I just, again, I felt like that flower is just for encouragement, for hope, for, you know, getting through this time. I mean, it's really hitting some families hard.
Yes, it is.
And I think in some areas, like for us, I don't know if it's necessarily really hit us yet, you know, so some communities are experiencing it in a greater level but we're all here and we're all supporting each other regardless, you know, and I think we feel each other's, you know, pain. It's really hard to hear that another community member's lost, you know, due to this virus. So there's lots of things that are coming through. I mean, I'm working on some masks too that I don't know when I'll actually share them, but I think we've all ended up working on masks because masks have become part of
Yeah.
our wardrobe now. And I have a couple of Akanav
Right.
masks because, you know, I'm going to support my colleague, but they're one of my favorite
Yeah.
because, you know, at the end of the day, you know,
Those
we
masks
still,
are gorgeous.
we still have to, I don't know, we still want to represent, even if it's a mask, right? So it's another
Right.
accessory.
Well, what I found, which was amazing, what I thought was amazing was, you know, there were no masks to be found anywhere, right? The companies weren't making them. There was like this standstill. What's happening? Are we getting them from China? But of course, Indigenous artists were all over it right away,
Mhm.
making stuff, donating hundreds and hundreds of masks to communities, selling them online. Indigenous artists are always the first to get on board and get things done, and it's just so amazing to watch the entrepreneurship and the care and the love that goes into it and the
Mhm.
fabulousness that goes into it.
Mhm.
So I'm excited to see your masks.
Yes. I did hand stitch masks this year for our, I don't know, our Easter egg hunt that we did for Easter for the kids. Last year I made cornhusk bunnies, and this year I hand sewed 6 masks for the kitties, you know. Um it's kind of, I think I did a post about that. It's kind of ironic that, you know, this is where we are right now. But what
Right,
the reality is one mask isn't enough, you know, in a
right,
household per person,
right.
is that you need multiple masks if you're
Just
doing this
like you need
properly.
multiple, like clothes, jeans,
Yes,
whatever. Right.
yes. So, you know, like I said, I'm not a sewer, but I bought a sewing machine. And so I
You're a
know
sewer.
I need
Now
to
you're
make,
a sewer.
now I'm a sewer, right? I need to make more masks because again, that's the reality that we're in right now.
Right.
As mothers, grandmothers, you know, you're going to take care of your families. And so it's forced me to sew on a sewing machine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so how has it been with I saw your pictures of your Easter egg hunt and they're so cute. And it is a matter of adapting. And the kids all know, like my kids all have their masks sewn by my sister-in-law, who is an amazing designer. Um, it feels like the kids, they're just kind of going with the flow, which is amazing to watch. It's just their new reality. But as adults, and we're trying to protect them, our, you know, families, how do you feel? Do you feel stressed, you know, and then trying to continue to do work and continue to earn a living? How is that going?
It's been interesting. I mean, I'm coming on my 35th anniversary in a couple of days here, wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And, you know, so my point in life right now is that we are selling our home. And this home was what my husband brought me the day we got married. And wedding
Right.
dress and all, you know, he drove up and he said, "Here's your wedding gift."
Right.
And so I think it's
It's
interesting that
amazing.
35 years later, you know, we're leaving this space. And so that in the middle of a pandemic has been very hard. Um, Normally, I probably would have been using all of the energy to be
So much.
creative, but in some ways you didn't have it. Like I couldn't be creative at first. It was scary, and you know, how do you protect your family? So, you know, that doesn't
Right.
necessarily translate to a creative process, you know what I mean? Um,
Right. Right.
so I do appreciate those that could use it to, you know, be creative, but it took me a little while to be able to come back around to
Yeah.
start working again. And it was more about what can
Mm-hmm.
I do to to you know, I needed to find the
To
utilitarian side
help.
of it. And yeah, we need to make masks for the kids, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Right. Right. And then, well, you have this move on top of it. So yeah, you're doing a lot of logistical and practical things
Yes.
in to fill your day. So really creativity for me anyway, I find I need like a space of time and I need to let go of so much before the creativity can flow. I mean, it's a whole process. So really
Exactly. Exactly.
it you have to be really disciplined in order to like create product at this point. But I find for me now, I'm just creating not for product, just as
So,
a
so another side,
meditative, you know.
another side note that has come out of this though is that I have been working with our I'll show that with our
Oh, wow.
child development, to, our daycare for our tribe, and I've been working on all these like teaching tools and
Yes.
things for the preschoolers, and so I've been doing a lot of illustration, and so ironically,
That's
we're doing
great.
things.
Illustration had a big W. It had a big, can you explain what it is,
Yeah,
Dawn?
so it's a
Or
picture with a
the
W,
Zoom, but
and then I made a We2 and water and wampum, so I'm doing the alphabet, but I'm doing it with more traditional, I don't know, or relevant things to us in our neck of the woods. And so that's one thing. So we're looking at ways to do virtual classes, and so I guess that's what's come out of this too, is even though I may not feel creative, some things are still here and have to happen. And I had been working on some prior illustrations, so I feel like I've already packed away the other pictures, but so like this is one. It's a for strawberry.
it's
So, yeah,
beautiful. Oh
so
my goodness.
so doing the girls, I've been trying to really focus on things that fit with our calendar and our moons, our 13 moons, and so
Beautiful.
so I've been working on those, and there's one more. You're getting all sneak previews because I haven't really shared
So these illustrations are gorgeous.
Yeah,
Really
so this
stunning.
is Three Sisters. So
Very exciting.
so yeah, so I guess
So
I
you're
am
busy.
still working, but
You are creating, yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah. But at your own pace, which is almost like a good reminder, because we're so used to just going and preparing for this show and that show and making sure that there's an end result. And sometimes it's nice to just be like, you know what, I gotta just reset and figure out what's really important, and things will get done when they get done.
yes. But but we do have to remember that we still have to think of, life does go on, and I know there's a lot of parents home trying to do,
That's true.
trying to be the teacher as well as maintain their jobs. I've also been doing art classes with my granddaughter so that she still keeps that art component
That's
in her curriculum. So I have them come over once a week and we do an art class. So yeah,
Nice.
it's so things are still happening and we've had to adapt to this environment. So I'm even looking at, okay, so does this mean we have virtual art class, and is that an opportunity to do a virtual thing? I mean, in some ways, it's opening up new
And
possibilities.
to reach a bigger audience. Right. Now your work is more accessible, and connecting with you is more accessible. So there are definitely positives in this very challenging time. What do you, as we wrap up, what do you see going forward? I mean, I know there's so many unknowns. How do you see, like, what do you wish for yourself for the coming year?
That's interesting. I think it's probably going to continue along the same line and looking at probably building up a whole collection of different classes. Maybe it's even recording what we do, because still ultimately in the end, this is a way that we have it accessible, because if you think about it, in the past you held a class and people had to sign up, and then it turned out people didn't know about it. And well, if it's done virtually and it's recorded, then you don't really miss it, right? You can go back
and you
and
can
catch
put it up
later.
on the NIA website.
Yes. So there may be potential for even greater and stronger community building activities, actually. Yeah.
Great. I'm looking forward to seeing what you develop and do. I know it will be great, as everything that you touch, it always turns out so beautifully. I'm so excited that you took the time to chat with me today, and that I got to see your beautiful face and you. And I can't wait for one day that we can hang out and have
I
hugs
know.
and, you know, all that fun stuff. But it was good to see you today. Thank you for joining me. And thank
you
you
for
everybody
having
for
me.
listening to Rise and Yes. And thank you everybody for listening to Rise and Thrive. I love being on here and sharing with you. So join us again next week, Thursday, on Usula Media. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
It's alright with me. Throw me around in your head just one more time in your bed. Tell me a lie so I can play along. And it's